a pleasant morning to our distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank the ADR Institute for giving me the opportunity to have a maiden participation in a forum on environmental crisis. In order to show the extent of devastation that the construction by the Chinese of the 7 artificial islands has caused and done, and to give context to the attendees, we'd like to show you photos of the West Philippine Sea before and after the reclamation project of the Chinese. This is, of course, before the reclamation. This is after the reclamation. The Swahili Cross Reef. The infrastructure was completed in 2017. And this is the details. These are the details of the construction, Kagitingan Reef. These are the microscopic macro photo, or what's this? Larger details of the photo of the construction, the fire reef. This is the Johnson South Reef before the reclamation, and this is how it looks now after the reclamation. You will note the arrow pointing to the introduction of the islands by the Chinese. Next, please. The McKinnon Reef. This is the pre-reclamation photo, and the post-reclamation photo shows the improvements introduced by the Chinese. Next, please. The Gavin Burgos Reef pre-reclamation photo shows that there's nothing there except, of course, the waters, but the post-reclamation photo shows the improvements introduced, the islands, artificial islands introduced by the Chinese. Next, please. The Calderon Reef pre-proclamation photo is there, and the post-reclamation photo shows the artificial islands, constructed by the Chinese. Next, please. The Subi Reef photo shows that nothing has been improved there, but after the Chinese constructed the artificial island there, you can see in the photo the islands which were constructed by the Chinese. We note here 2 Chinese cargo vessels at Subi Reef, and you can see this magnified photo which shows the introduction of improvements by the Chinese after they constructed the artificial islands. This is Miss Jeffries before reclamation. Next photo, please. And this is how it looks now. The islands constructed by them. There's the lagoon, and this is the detail which shows the improvements. There's the hangar, there's the hangar here, hangar there, where, all right, and these are the instruments which the Chinese use to spot or spy on activities in the environs. And you can see that the transport ships are very, very massive, and they are the ones which are based in the Panganiban Reef. This is a bird's eye view of the 7 artificial islands constructed by the Chinese in this Spratlys. And this is the dredger. The dredger was used by the Chinese to extract, to destroy the reefs there, to bring it to the ship, and the ship would conduct whatever materials they had to the submerged reef. Coral, all right, now, This is the photo of the marine life in the reefs. In economic terms, coral reefs are the single most valuable ecosystem on Earth, according to a paper published in 2012 by ecologist Rodolphe de Groot at Wageningen University and Research Center in the Netherlands. A hectare of reef has a potential value of approximately $350,000 a year. So now, this is the dispersal of eggs and larvae of fish. You can see that blue color there, where the fish is spawned, their larvae, and the fish would go to the Philippines, to Vietnam, to Malaysia, among other nations. So you can see that the Philippines really relies on the supply of fish from the blue colored thing there. Now, given that the ambassador and I filed a communication before the Office of the Prosecutor in the ICC, I thought that my topic today would be demanding accountability from the Chinese on the destruction that they committed, that they did commit in the West Philippine Sea. The South China Sea, which includes the West Philippine Sea, has long been known as the greatest concentration of marine life on the planet, where the highest concentration of biodiversity is in the Philippines. More than 320,000 Filipino fishermen rely on the West Philippine Sea for their livelihood and sustenance. Thus, the Philippine Sea is an immensely valuable part of the Philippines' national patrimony, which has sustained Filipinos throughout centuries. Next slide, please. The award given by the Arbitral Tribunal on July 2016, July 12. The award found, among other things, that China unlawfully prevented Filipino fishermen from engaging in traditional fishing at Scarborough Shoal. China violated its obligation to protect the marine environment in the South China Sea through tolerance of Chinese illegal fishing and massive land reclamations and construction of artificial islands. This, to me, is the environmental aspect of the Arbitral Tribunal Award. As a state party to UNCLOS, China has a treaty obligation to comply with the award, but China openly rejected the award and continues to act on its expansive and unlawful claims. Worse, in line with China, the Duterte administration decided to shelve the award. Now, how do we enforce the award, particularly its environmental aspects, when both China and the Duterte administration refused to do so? The West Philippine Sea belongs to Filipinos, not to Duterte, not to China. Thus, as Filipinos, we need to find creative and viable ways to enforce the award because our leadership refuses to do so. This is why former Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Albert Del Rosario, and I took the initiative of filing the communication before the ICC. The ICC communication is a means of enforcing the award because it seeks to impose individual criminal responsibility for China's acts already found unlawful by the award, for China's officials' act already found unlawful by the award. The inhumane acts of Chinese officials in the South China Sea constitute crimes against humanity within the ICC's jurisdiction. Inhumane acts, what are these? Deprivation of food and livelihood among a vulnerable group of Filipinos who rely on fishing in order to survive. Destroying long-term food security by causing massive and devastating environmental destruction through illegal land reclamation and artificial island building. On June 9, 2019, attempting to kill 22 Filipino fishermen by ramming their boat and leaving them helpless at sea. It bears emphasis that the questioned acts of the Chinese officials are continuing. What we are looking at in the South China Sea is potentially one of the world's worst fisheries collapses ever. We're talking of hundreds and hundreds of species that will collapse, and they could collapse relatively quickly, one after another. What do we Filipinos have to buy? Galunggong and other fish caught in West Philippine Sea from Chinese fishermen, instead of buying fish from our own suffering Filipino fishermen. The impact of the crimes may be assessed in light of, inter alia, the increased vulnerability of victims, or the social, economic, and environmental damage inflicted on the affected communities. In this particular context, the Office will give particular consideration to prosecuting Rome Statute crimes that are committed by means of or that result in, inter alia, the destruction of the environment, the illegal exploitation of natural resources, or the illegal dispossession of land. Crime against humanity means any of the following acts, which, when committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against civilian population with knowledge of the attack, viz. Persecution against any identifiable group or collectivity on political, racial, national, ethnic, cultural, religious, gender, or other grounds that are universally recognized as impermissible under international law. Other inhuman acts of a similar character, intentionally causing great suffering or serious injury to body or to mental or physical health. One of the fundamental principles of criminal law is territoriality. The crimes committed by Chinese officials occurred in Philippine territory at a time when the Philippines was an ICC member. It bears emphasis again that crimes committed by Chinese officials are continuing. The EEZ of the Philippines is part of the national territory of the Philippines under Article 1 of the Constitution. This principle of territoriality in criminal law is embodied in Article 12(2)(a) of the Rome Statute. The ICC may exercise its jurisdiction if one or more of the following states are parties to the statute: the state on the territory of which the conduct in question occurred. Article 1 of the 1987 Constitution provides, the national territory comprises the Philippine archipelago with all the islands and waters embraced therein, and all other territories over which the Philippines has sovereignty or jurisdiction, consisting of its terrestrial, fluvial, and aerial domains, including its territorial sea, the seabed, the subsoil, the insular selves, and other submarine areas. The waters around, between, and connecting the islands of the archipelago, regardless of their breadth and dimensions, form part of the internal waters of the Philippines. Two components of Article 1 of the Constitution. 1. Philippine archipelago with all the islands and waters embraced therein. 2. All other territories over which the Philippines has sovereignty or jurisdiction, consisting of its terrestrial, fluvial, and aerial domains, including its territorial sea, the seabed, the subsoil, the insular selves, and other submarine areas. International law defines territory as land territory, where a state exercises sovereignty. Under Philippine domestic law, national territory is expressly defined as consisting of land, water, air, and the submarine areas. Thus, our EEZ is part of our national territory because it is an area, fluvial and submarine areas, over which the Philippines exercises jurisdiction. Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code of the Philippines provides application of its provisions, except as provided in the treaties and laws of preferential application, the provisions of this code shall be enforced not only within the Philippine archipelago, including its atmosphere, its interior waters, and maritime zone. Consistent with the Constitution, the Philippine EEZ is part of Philippine criminal jurisdiction. Is there doubt then that we have criminal jurisdiction of President Z and his alleged conspirators? Why did we go directly to the ICC? The complementary principle is satisfied because not a single Philippine office or agency is prosecuting Chinese officials for crimes against humanity. The current climate in the Philippines is not conducive to such investigation and prosecution. Friendly relations with China. President Duterte said, "I love Xi Jinping," and that China will protect the Philippines. Before his first state visit to China, President Duterte said, "I am Chinese." Duterte often heaps praises on President Xi Jinping and China during public speeches. The Duterte administration decided to shelve the award, allowed Chinese planes and ships to land and dock in Davao City. President Duterte announced that he wants to stop joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea to appease China. He welcomed Chinese businessmen, investments, and workers. So allow me to cap my presentation by quoting a passage in A Pillar of Iron by Taylor Caldwell, which passage he attributes to Cicero. It goes, "A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in the accents familiar to his victims, and he appeals to the baseless that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soil of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of a city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to be feared." Thank you. Mabuhay po tayo.